Yes, so the official announcement will come next week on Monday. The core of the announcement is that Parachute will be transitioning to Wax Labs. So this means guild rewards will decrease to base rewards for top 21, and for top 20 and for standbys it will probably go a little lower than it is now. I think the final number has not yet been decided upon. But essentially the inflation is supposed to be reduced, and the total number of standbys will be cut down from currently 24 to 6. So only the top 6 standbys will be paid. Along with this change of taking away the parachute, they will also take away guild requirements. So being a guild will essentially become just being a validator or a BP. Guilds will only have to provide the core infrastructure, so not atomic acid, sorry, producer node and RPC. They were probably required to run a set of oracles, like the Delphi Oracle for prices, and potentially an evaluation framework, because the Wax team also aims to automate most of the current tech evaluation, and to decentralize this, we'll probably finally get to the point where we define an oracle that will do the validation of certain infrastructure and push these information to chain. And then, of course, testnet. Everybody will probably require to run testnet. So we have validators on both mainnet and testnet. And everything else that is currently covered by guild rewards would have to be covered by Wax Labs funds. And for this, Wax Labs is getting an overhaul. So currently you only have non-profit contracts. So you can just make a proposal for a non-profit project. And with the overhaul of Wax Labs, it will also allow for-profit projects, and there will different types of grants. So right now you only have like product grants with milestones. What's coming with revised Wax Labs is a contract system. So instead of having milestones, you can have a grant that is based on time, and that's essentially a contract that will say you are getting these amounts of funds for this period of time instead of per milestone. This will then be used to take over all the infrastructure that is currently run by guilds that will not be part of guild rewards anymore. So Hyperion will go away from official guild rewards requirements. Same for atomic assets, for light AVI. All that stuff will be run by dedicated providers. So the numbers will limit it, so we don't have this oversupply anymore. And these will run through contracts through Wax Labs. So we will have a bidding system where Wax Labs says we have these many seats to provide full Hyperion, partial Hyperion, atomic, light ABI, whatever, and then guilds can bid on these. But the bids will not be decided plainly on who is the cheapest provider, but what do you actually provide? What is your server setup? This will factor in. So how many requests would you actually be able to serve? Then what we will also factor in is, do you need this infrastructure? So it will favor BPs or guilds that have a product of their own that needs these endpoints anyway. So for example, if you own a marketplace for NFTs, then you would be a proponent for running Atomic Assets API, because your product goes down if this API goes down. So you would be favored to run these. If you have a DEX, for example, you would probably be favored to run Light API. The other thing that will factor in is your past experience. Did you provide Hyperion in the past, or these setups? How reliable have you been? These sort of stuff. So the selection will be more arbitrary than based on funds. So what this means is we will the number of public APIs will gradually reduce. And to have better tracking of these, they will be bundled under load balancers that are maintained probably by the WAX team. So all partial Hyperion nodes would then register with the load balancer of the WAX team, and all projects or whatever would use this, and all end users with these APIs instead of directly going to the guild API. And given that we have many guilds with many products and not everybody can be appointed to become one of the providers, but might need this still to run their own infrastructure, instead to compensate for the guild rewards going away and you not being able to run these setups anymore, potentially you would get priority access to these endpoints that are paid for through WAX Labs.
Okay, let's maybe make a cut there and answer some questions if there are any.
Any questions to this?
Because that was a lot of information.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's good.
What is the new cutoff for standby guilds then, if it's only sub 6?
There is no cutoff. The cutoff is whoever has the most points will be among the top 6, or rather whoever has the most votes, because the system will rely more on votes than the current one. Because most of the criteria go away, so we will refactor the current tech evaluation criteria. But given that we only have a very, very limited of data points, because there's only producer node, RPC, oracles, and testnet, the evaluation will impact the voting, but probably not decide the production order like it does right now.
Are you sure that's the best way to go about it? To do it through votes all of a sudden?
It's currently also done through votes. Just right now, technically it is. Just that right now, the WAX team is voting with a lot of funds to enforce the production order. But
that's where, yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to mention that's where we think that if we automated the technical reviews of guilds, it would result probably often in many guilds having the same score or the same quality of API. So I think we will work out some qualitative details to have a better judgment parameter on the quality of services provided.
So one of the issues we have, and why we probably go with the whole voting procedure, is the aspect of decentralization and being considered a security if we just appoint guilds. Because it's an open standard, it's an open blockchain, and everybody can register. If we were to appoint guilds, then essentially the WAX team would be in control more than it is anyway. So that's an issue. And also currently, the only system we have is the voting system. And the current voting system isn't really that secure because it could be overridden if you have enough funds. And there currently are entities that could just do a hostile takeover of the chain because they have enough funds to do so. That's why we need to revise the system. So what's probably going to happen is that we have these infrastructure evaluations, and these will still go into a point system, and this point system will then act as vote weight multipliers on your votes. So the better you perform, the higher your multiplier, and the more every vote you get matters.
That makes sense, but the thing is, well, for the past bit, there's a handful of parties that have just been able to accumulate a significant amount of wax just from the strong parachute emissions.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a system that's like, well, you could just vote yourself in if you save that wax, or you could leverage the wax of the top 21 to get them to vote you in.
Nobody has enough funds acquired to do that.
Well, just for them being a standby.
Even for being a standby. The big proxies alone have around 40 to 60 million wax, I think. And I doubt the wax team will stop voting.
Yeah. Well, that's assuming that they are going to continue voting, but then the standbys. Oh, wait.
You still need like 700 million wax.
Yeah, but the standbys aren't being voted with that, are they?
They are. Why not?
No, at that point they probably will be. I assume the wax team will just vote for like 27 or 30 or whatever. Based on the points, they will just vote for the 30 guilds with the highest points. So the proxy, the OIG proxy, will definitely vote for the 30 guilds with the highest points, and then all these will essentially have the same votes coming from that, and then the user votes will decide the actual production order, impacted by the vote weight multiplier that's then applied on top. So you have to pass essentially the evaluation of the infrastructure evaluation. And once you did that, you have a vote weight multiplier. And then the better your infrastructure, the higher the multiplier, the fewer votes you actually need to be voted into production or paid standby.
Yeah, makes sense.
How can you quantify expertise or set guilds aside?
That's something that's still being worked out. So I think we need to preserve guilds based on experience and contributions, because what we have seen on other chains is that guilds are inactive, that they don't participate and they don't contribute. And if we have issues on chain, in many cases you have to be an active validator to even be able to debug the issue. Like the time bomb issue we had, where transactions were failing on the producer node, and this had to be debugged, and you could only do it if you had logs from being an active producer. So that's why I think it's very crucial for us to preserve a certain set of guilds by having a second layer of evaluations that is added on top of just the infrastructure. I think that's where...
Previous there's been discussions about differentiate teams that are running in data centers or controlling their own hardware. Will that be looked at, and if so, how?
I hope so. But that's not decided yet. I think it's crucial to factor in at some point, but it's also hard to actually validate. So we'll probably see about that. Christina, please.
Yeah, I just had a question about the ecosystem contributions. How will change, or
this will all go away entirely. So this will all go through Wax Labs.
Okay.
So it will not be factored into evaluation.
Okay.
Probably not.
Thank you.
The other thing that's important is that this will not be done from one day or 1 month on to the next, but the whole system will be phased out starting in April, and the phase out will last 6 months. So the rewards will gradually reduce every month until October.
And that's the period of time where we need to focus on revising how Wax Labs work and how funding on Wax Labs on Wax works.
And also, we will gradually reduce the requirements on the current guild evaluations, because a lot of the stuff is phased out. So we already started that with Hyperion, that with the latest guideline version, we took full Hyperion away. This is part of the preparation for this shift.
It's very important that we elaborate on how those future proposals on Wax Lab will look like, what the standard is, and put a lot of emphasis on guidelines for proposals on Wax Labs, so that you guys can plan. That will be
overall, Wax Labs has to be greatly improved So once this all transitions to Wax Labs, I assume it will take at least 3 months until this really starts. Wax Labs has to actively be managed. So not just like right now, where sometime once a month there will be a revision of everything that has been submitted. This has to happen every week, and there should be an active management of these proposals. So there's be somebody likely employed by the Wax team that is serving as product owner and will consistently check back with whoever is having products and developing products to see if there is any blockers, anything that's missing, to ensure that everything is actually going smooth and in the right direction.
But,
I have another question also.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now that everyone that will be voted on will have basically the same score, how will issues like downtime or those kind of things impact that score, and will it do that?
It will, of course, because otherwise that's where the score is coming from. If you have a downtime, you lose scores. So the exact details have to be worked out, because we have to overhaul. The current system is more like a benchmark. You either have the score or you don't, or you fuck up really bad and you get a penalty. But our goal here is to make these more granular, that there is more differentiation between guilds and quality. So right now, for example, the benchmark score is just have the sub 0.3 milliseconds on the EOS mechanics, and then from there it does not matter. So this will probably be specified better, that you have to, that we evaluate also the range in which you produce. So because we have guilds that on median are below the 0.3 milliseconds, but have ranges from like 0.15 up to 0.5 or whatever. So, and a good producer should not have these huge ranges. So the better your range is, the better is your score, and we'll probably not go anymore with like this 0.3 milliseconds, but instead we will define a median, and the closer you are to this median and the lower your range is around this median, the better your score. And then probably extend this further to not only cover the EX mechanics, but cover all the most common actions on Wax, like also look at the execution time of token transfers or alien world means transaction, whatever is the highest amount of transactions on the chain at the time.
I think what Anders was also getting a little bit into, per our current framework, there's a lot of incentive to be engaged on Wax, and when something burns down, it was often handled in a very quick manner, and there was some collaborative effort in solving issues that affect the chain, and especially the UX of the chain. I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, that could be handled also retroactively, which makes it much more difficult to get an issue resolved. But
what do you mean by retroactively?
Yeah, we run into an issue, the issue is solved, and then you receive some point or an uplift in rank, or I don't know, does it even fit a labs proposal?
No, this wouldn't be something for labs proposal probably. This would rather be something.
I don't see that too, but essentially I think it's an option.
Yeah. Well, this is something that will be defined over the coming months. So the next 3 months, probably, we're going to reduce the requirements. So mostly reduce the requirements to phase it out into Wax Labs. And then from there, we will start to define the new metrics and build the new system around them that will go live in October.
I have another thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
With this system, you will have less differentiation between each guild, meaning your performance compared to others will have a bigger impact. Will that discourage guilds from helping other guilds to resolve issues? Because it's an incentive not to help them.
Of course, it's a competition, so potentially yes. But that's why I think that it's important to honor these guilds that do it. Like, we have these OG guilds, and it's not that many, that are always around, have all the knowledge, and that are always helping out, and they should not be discouraged from helping people out. So it still, in the end, should be, a collaboration.
Because in some ways it's been like that before also, but it will be even more now.
Yes, of course.
Guilds will be less encouraged to share scripts or how they resolve things, or
I'm aware of
any
that.
way they can.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. And that's why I think we have to have a second layer beyond just infrastructure evaluations. But
How
the
often
route the
will
wax team wanted to go was to go just down to objective infrastructure metrics and have that all on chain. So I don't think this is going to work, or not, at least not have the best impact. That's why I kept urging to have a second layer, and so far it seems they agreed to that. We just have to define it.
Is there
For me,
any
it needs
decision
to
on how
solve a-
often votes will be updated and scores?
From what I could take, what the wax team wants to achieve is that evaluations are ongoing. Essentially, there are the scripts. So I assume what's happening, because you don't have the metrics on chain, there will be a smart contract like an Oracle. There will be an Oracle smart contract, and either all guilds or a set of guilds will run Oracle scripts that validate all the other guilds, and then push that to the Oracle chain. And then this will automatically calculate your vote weight multiplier that is applied on your votes. So as soon as something goes wrong and all oracles confirm it went wrong on your node, then your vote weight multiplier will change.
Is that a risk of creating a collusion?
That's why we still have the OIG that will oversee and work as a failsafe. So we will still have an OIG that will oversee the evaluations and the development and the guidelines.
But to give you another answer, I think last week we talked about potentially that Oracle. It wouldn't work out perfectly because you can't always. So we don't our APIs and RPC nodes and such, they are the same software, but you will often discover different results checking those APIs. And the weirdest issue is because of someone is using Nginx, someone is using Apache, and someone is using something HA proxy as a reverse proxy or a web server in front of it. I think it's a chance also to define a standard, but that opinion wasn't liked in the past. But yeah. That's what I wanted to add.
I don't understand what you meant. A standard for what softwares a team should run?
Yeah, so essentially when we talk about block producers validating blocks and providing RPC nodes, whichever API you test in the network, it should produce exactly the same results and exactly the same errors. But that will essentially never be the case, because someone is load balancing and failovering, someone is using Nginx, someone is using Apache. So if we want to further go down that road of automating the testing of APIs, we would need to standardize a little bit of the setup. So there we also need to decide higher standards and the same standards for everyone. And then you have something on one level where you can benchmark the guilds one to each other. Or in this case, you, WAG Sweden, are running multiple servers and you will essentially never have a downtime. Can we apply the same benchmark to you? You see? So it's also a chance to define what does this setup look like? What do we require? Is a certain web server used? Is a certain load balancer used? Is a certain software used? How is it configured? How does it handle errors and stuff? That was I was after.
Yeah, I see.
Because
I'm not
currently-
sure it's I'm not sure it's the right path to go down. There are many
I don't
softwares
know
that can
tools.
reach the same result, and it's actually the result that you're after to measure.
Exactly. Was just thinking out loud.
It would be
When
like
thinking about
telling everyone
optimization.
everyone has to use React for all their Wax front ends, can't use anything else, and that wouldn't be a good idea.
Yeah, I don't like it too. But you could compare things easier. Okay.
Yeah, I wonder how those benchmarks will be measured and pushed on chain.
Yep.
If it's an average of everyone and then all the guilds are pushing, and then I go and talk to 10 other guilds, hey, let's increase our rating by 10% on everything, and we do it for all of us, then all of our scores will be similarly improved. And we will ensure that we are higher than others. I don't even think you need to have 10 to impact the average score enough.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of centralized testing. I'm honest here. Five
I'm
probes
not.
around the world testing.
But that's why we still have an OIG to validate the authenticity of these tests.
I think that's essential. It has to
So,
be well defined beforehand.
Yeah, of course. It has to be well defined and it has to be validated. So if there's inconsistencies, these consistencies should alert the guilds and not the guilds, the OIG and the Wax team, so they know there's something going on. And if you suddenly have like 10 guilds that have better results for a subset of validators, while it's not the case everywhere else, something is off.
And this will also rely more on EOS mechanics in the ways that was discussed now, which means that you are incentivized to cheat on EOS mechanics also.
No, as said, I would want to extend that to other actions, not just EOS mechanics.
Yeah, you would want to, but as far as we know now, that's...
Yeah, I mean, the guidelines have not been written yet, so I hope that we will be able to implement a system that does not solely rely on EOS mechanics. So.
Yeah, the API billing stuff too, that needs to be in there. There are some criteria that we wanted to edit for a long time. Yeah. It's a chance to make it part of it, and I think we should do.
Because we will then start to properly evaluate RPC nodes, because it's one of the core infrastructure that are provided by guilds. So we'll also try to validate execution times and other things.
I think it will be a good topic if moving forward to figure out these gamifications and counter them.
Yeah,
I think it will be essential moving to a system like this.
I think it's
unless
really
the game is to cheat
be...
them. If that's the goal, then that's the goal. And I don't think it should be.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm too naive, because I often assume people don't cheat.
But that's not the case. People earn money. They run bots. It's on everything.
Yeah, sure.
People live on farming in games where you don't even earn money. And they sell it off on other marketplaces.
Yeah. If someone solves cheating, I think it's $1 trillion industry. Solving that for games and for financial markets. Difficult.
Like saying solving crime, dude. That's not possible.
Didn't they do that in that movie with Colin Farrell, where they could see the murder scene afterwards?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. And it's like there's like the hacker girl or something. She like erases the.
Yeah, exactly. That one in the bath, and then the ball came out, and if it was a blue ball, it was a murder. I don't know what the movie was called, but on Sunday,
I know what you're talking about.
I saw a Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger on Sunday.
It's a good one.
And Time Cop afterwards. classic Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, we're a bit far away from there. We're gonna need some exotic tech that currently doesn't exist. So
I'm so glad for Jackie Chan that he won his first Oscar.
really,
Took him only 46 broken bones.
why did he win it now? Did he win it now?
Recently somewhere. I don't know when. But I'm derailing again. I was lonely and I was talking to bots only.
But you said this will be public by next week.
Yes, right now the plan is to launch this on Monday.
And Labs is likely being rebuilt in a 3-month.
That's the current plan, yes. So initially, we might maybe we might use the current Wax Labs version initially, but the goal right now is to rebuild it within the next 3 months.
When are guilds
adjust it.
encouraged to push their products through Wax Labs?
After these 3 months.
Okay.
So after the first 3 reductions, so April, May, June, starting July probably.
But I'd like us to talk a lot about how a labs proposal should be written and that we then can all start on that, some form of, I don't know, training. Elaborate on how does a labs proposal look like and how should it be written to be successful. And how should it be presented? What are the details that Wax Labs is looking into? But then, of
the
course,
UI could have a
also,
template for these things and make it easier.
absolutely. I hope we get the chance to relaunch Wax Labs completely with those 3 paths of proposals, maintenance, and bidding, roughly speaking. And quite a few cool new features that we need. Just need those. But I'm hoping we are going to have a couple of discussions about how future Wax Labs should look like and start working on it.
Any news on the atomic acid side of things?
Oh,
Greg.
sorry.
So
Just reminded me of it. No.
I was told that there's still issues with the API, and this will take time to resolve. Sorry, bro.
No, it's all right. It's all right, man. It is what it is.
I think the other open topic is getting your smart contracts reviewed or audited potentially, right? Yeah. Okay.
That's my business, you know. It's no concern of mine how Fabian's carrying out like the things the obstacles he's overcoming. Because I know end of the day, even if that side was done, the audit still needs to happen, right? There's still that aspect of remaining work.
Yeah. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. Just checking in. I pitched it to Craig, you know, because it's like, okay, we get this contract up. This is supposed to be a little one. We need the other contract as well for the rentals, so that you just can marketplace can just incorporate it alongside listings and auctions, and you just can just buy it right out of every single secondary marketplace that currently exists. And it's like, well, I can it's not that much work to get the rentals contract up as well. I pitched it to Craig, slowly just, you know, he had to read at it, didn't say anything. So I don't know. It's like this update's gonna happen, and then people are gonna be like, "We waited like all these months for this." Like, this is just half of it, you know.
Yeah. So one of the problems is that we can't really update the contracts until the API is ready to handle the updates. Currently, the API fails to operate on mainnet.
Yeah.
And as long as that's the case, unfortunately.
On another note, I do feel that we missed this wipe coding trend which is happening currently, because a couple of companies took the chance and sponsored it, right? And then they called it a wipe jam in reference to a game jam and I don't know what. And those companies' visibility just exploded. And I think that's what those people that are trying into the wipe jam, they're looking into getting into game development, indie game development. And I feel like that's exactly what we want or need here. And we should have participated in this trend. But it also showed me on the other hand that those people, and even though the price is not great, it's more about fame and stuff, right? There are hundreds of people, or I think there are already 400 plus submissions on the wipe jam. Just imagine how many developers just spent their free time there to develop a indie game or an indie game demo to launch it there for fame, while they could have been paid, or there could have been a prize for them, a monetary prize for them to build those things, especially indie games, and maybe teach them, yeah, this is how you log in securely, and this is how you transfer a token, an NFT. So I feel like it's a missed opportunity, honestly.
I mean, notoriety does have an inherent value, even if there isn't like a prize pool. I think the going rate, like let's say like a YouTube channel has like 25,000 subscribers, and they're real subscribers, real channel, and it's within your niche, within the topic. You're looking at around like $500 for them to make like a 5 to 10 minute video about your game. You know, if they have like 1 million views, you're probably looking at like maybe $20,000 to $30,000. You know, I think like for, and then like at the very high end, like a Kim Kardashian post, just a post about your product, it's like $1 to $2 million, you know. So even though there is maybe no cash reward, the notoriety alone and the advertising is well worth it in lots of cases. The other thing I will say though is that you got to be careful about fame and developers, right? Because it's like it's just, well, this is like a mutually exclusive thing almost, to the extent that, well, the software development is never going to be an activity that the vast majority of people are going to enjoy and partake in. It's just not, you know, it's very niche, right? For most people, it's just magic, and that's all it needs to be, you know? And so when you have tools that are lowering the barrier like considerably, to the extent that it's just prompting in and just like a vibe jam or something, right? Like you might grow a big community, but you're going to grow a community of people who aren't particularly competent in actually software development, right? So that is kind of the consequence of it, right? You'll have a community, but it might not be an ideal community, because, well, the moment that you take a look at some of the repo, you'll see that there's like, it's just like a Frankenstein like project, like it's just like glued together like all these like different pieces, and then eventually they hit a token limit and you're like, I have no idea what to do. I have 40 pages of Python and my computer's exploding, you know?
Yeah, I get you, but you know, that's where I feel, and I think that doesn't match Wax, but a lot of Web3 apps that you visit and you then use, and those are presumably large projects with a large market cap, they just feel janky, and you really feel that they work, but they weren't produced so professionally. You often see very polished pieces of applications, but when I look back at the past 3 years at some tools I was using, I don't know, PooCoin on BSC chain. What else? You know, that one, for example, millions of views, but look how it feels, look how it works, right? I don't think it's a necessity for a game or for an application to be perfect, to be enjoyed. So
100% it doesn't. Look at Epic Games Launcher, it's horrible. Look at Xbox Game Launcher, it's horrible. Nothing compares to how good Steam is compared to the other things.
Xbox is so bad because it tries to when it. So I've got Sea of Thieves from the Xbox launcher, and to update it, so it opens up Xbox, it has to download it from the Microsoft App Store. So it opens that to download it and then patches it back through. I'm like, dog, like what is happening here? It's Xbox is very, very bad, the launcher on it.
So even big corporations have bad apps, and they are in production.
So one of the most played games of that Wipe Jam is like an airplane dogfighting game. You just start at the ground, you fly up, and then you just start shooting at something.
Oh, the one in 3JS?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I know.
It's a single HTML file with thousands of lines, for example. But it doesn't stop people from enjoying it and using it because they want to be part of that community, and that's an excellent example for me. For the app is the quote quality is horrific, but the user experience is okay. I learned a lot through that because I'm more kind of not a perfectionist, but I tend to finish things before I release them, and I think I shouldn't. I think I should put out non-working products every there and then and just fix it. Just improve it over time.
Depends what others expect of you and like the situation you're in. Personally, like if I could, I wouldn't release a single thing and I just keep hush for like months.
Don't launch a broken token contract.
Well, that's like an easier one. Like it's like more like don't. So
don't
like
launch a broken NFT custodian application.
Like a year and a half ago, when I first launched. No, actually, it was about 2 years ago when I first launched the first iteration of my NFT contract. I let people play with it, and very quickly people got like thousands and thousands of NFTs, and I was like, hey guys, like that was just like the alpha. We're gonna do like a quick wipe, and we're gonna like get it back up and running. We're gonna go through multiple iterations. People were like, wow, and like a lot of people were very disappointed, and so they just like didn't interact with the second iteration until like the third and fourth iterations came around. You know, they just like slowly, you know, and so it's almost felt like, well, it was punitive. It was like a net negative releasing half-cooked software, because all of a sudden, or like half-cooked games, because all of a sudden people made progress on it. They're like, what do you mean my progress is wiped? And it's like, oh, it's in alpha, bro. It's still in testing, you know? Yeah. So that is one downside of it, but of course it depends on the type of game, right? If you got a game like League of Legends that you're trying to build, like a MOBA, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, get people to come on in, play it, because it's ephemeral, right? Match to match. You move on, it's no big deal.
And what I mostly see is people release a playtest or a demo before they release the full game to get feedback and also to get the sentiment for the game. That has become like the industry standard. And Ubisoft should have done the same with Assassin's Creed, so that they would have known that it's not working out for them. But yeah.
Well, Ubisoft made like 50 bad decisions in a row. I mean, they got.
I mean, it's got to be
a bit more unique.
You know, you effed up when the Prime Minister mentions you publicly, then you know something went wrong.
Yeah, what they did with the latest Assassin's Creed game was just really patronizing. I'm not gonna act like it just seemed like it was kind of in bad taste and kind of just like, well, what's even happening here? It was just it seemed foolish, you know. I'm not gonna act like I'm offended on behalf of like Japanese people, because it's like it's just like I don't really know all that much about it, but it just seemed kind of like ridiculous, you know.
I once missed to call someone son at the end in a meeting with a Japanese company. And afterwards, I got told that this could be a reason why they won't work with me. So their culture is very centered around respect. A lot.
as
if you're
most
talking to
cultures
someone
should be.
higher in a professional context, if you're talking to someone higher and he has in his signature his name and some kind of director, you need to start your mail with hello Hikaru-san. So if you miss the sun, you're out. They are very strict with their culture.
Fair enough.
Cultural thing.
Yeah. Going back to that, you said something kind of interesting about how there's a lot of kind of like half-baked code out there that's not polished. Where like, well, sometimes you'll just see like a very like successful corporation and you'll look at their product and it's not that complete, not that well done. It kind of makes you think about how like we're moving into an era where getting a market viable product is like the number one priority. And so that maybe before you might have needed an entire team of people working for months to get something going, but now you can actually build like a little scrappy idea very, very quickly on your own. And as time goes on, we're going to get maybe like models that are going to have more and more tokens. The scope and complexity of the project is going to be larger and larger. And although it won't be polished, I think polishing is actually going to be the most expensive part of product development, because you'll be able to get something up and running very quickly, but now you need someone to maintain your code base and actually understand it, well, how can I take it from where it is right now and improving it,
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be a hell of a like upcoming market in and of itself.
Oh yeah, it is. Developers and startups that have a nice idea, which is essentially a digital product, they don't like to speak to VCs in the classical sense or to the bank to get a credit loan for the development, stuff like that. So many obligations when you can just build a MVP, pitch it to see if it has some sentiment or not, and then focus on polishing it to a final product that people will pay money for or not. While previously you sat down, you wrote that 28-page document explaining your project and some calculation for how it's going to finance cost the next year and when it's going to be in the next 3 years and when it's coming to become revenue positive after 5 years or whatever, EV positive after 5 years. And yeah, think about it. You don't need those people anymore to fund your idea and get 50% of your company.
You probably still do need them, but it's just like the game has kind of changed. Because maybe back then, like back in the day, that's what everyone would do. So that's where the competition was at. But today, that's not where the competition's at. Today, the competition's at you've already put together an MVP and you have that document, just to get your funding. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like, okay, like you have just you just have a prompt, bro. You don't even have the output, at least, right? Yeah. Like your idea on a napkin is actually, you just have the prompts. Like it's got to be a bit more than that. And so,
how often did it happen to you that some friend of you who is not a developer came to you and said, I have an awesome idea, but I need someone to build it. Dude. Let's do it together. You will build it and I will do the rest.
I wouldn't get that. No, I'd get, hey man, so I've got this idea I was thinking about. So we're going to take AI, and I'm like, all right, you're done. You're done. Yeah. The moment, like, the first thing they say is you're gonna take AI, it's like you're on to nothing, bro. You're on to nothing. If you're gonna take AI, why don't you just put in GPT, see what it says, Yeah.
I'm going to correct my previous statement. You need VCs, but you need them only for an exit at an insane valuation when you build out everything on your own. Like there was a company recently acquired for 8 billion or whatever, and it was only founded a few years ago, and someone calculated that they made a couple of millions every day since they launched. And
was it called Wiz? Was that security?
Yeah, Wiz, exactly. Yeah. Wiz. And I never heard about that company before, but it recently got sold for 8+ billion, and they were only founded like 2 years ago or something. and that leads
They were
to-
founded in 2020, and I think they got bought for a lot more than 8 million or 8 billion. I think it was
8.4 billion.
Let me see.
Google acquired them, right? Yeah. So, and that makes 8.4 billion divided by 800 days or something, and that meant that they made a couple of millions every day.
It wasn't 8.4 billion. It was 8.4 billion more than their last offer. They got bought for 32 billion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, but this like what? It's a cybersecurity firm for cloud services, and it kind of does make sense because it's like, okay, everyone's got these applications up and running. They're making them very easily. Security, that's going to be like the number one thing, right? It makes sense on paper. It makes sense.
And I think they didn't have an investor at the beginning or something when they started it. I think they had some later, but insane exit by that one founder.
Yeah,
I think that's where you need VCs nowadays. you build the product and you scale it, or you have the scaling plan. You have the product, you have a subscription, you have a growing user base, you have that monthly returning revenue, maybe some other nice contracts and deals, and yeah, that's the point until where you build it. I think that's what those white coders dream of. Let's build something that generates revenue and then sell it.
Yep. Clean exit. Absolutely. Let's define terms.
Yeah. Okay. Time to check out, right? I think we could meet separately to discuss all of this, but so for me, it's absolutely inspiring what's happening with the vibe coding. To think of how we could utilize it for wax, but difficult.
I think it's fine if, like, as a trend, it's not capitalized on. I think it's okay. Henrik, go ahead.
Patrick, what's up?
In my opinion, isn't the vibe coding trend more about also letting know that everybody essentially has the opportunity to code these things, even without knowing anything? We could promote Wax a little bit the same way in that anybody can be a creator on Wax. Anybody can create NFTs. Anybody can create some blend contract drops, whatever. We could make it a little bit more accessible for anybody to become a creator on Wax, and in that way tap into like the vibe coding trend. But I guess it's a little bit more of a marketing proposal.
I think people don't see the end of it, where in traditional Web 2 you have that gigantic VC exit or whatever, or at least you have that product which earns you revenue on a monthly basis. So it pays your maintenance cost of the server and it allows you to develop further on it. I think that's what's fundamentally a little bit off in the whole of Web3. You will rarely see products or applications that generate a monthly revenue. I think that's what's missing in Web3. And that's why you won't see that much builder engagement in Web2 at the moment. Because when you think about how do I exit this in a couple of years, or how do I get it funded continuously, it's completely different in Web3. The paradigm is a completely different one. So I don't think it's too it's not too appealing for people, for developers, for opportunist developers. Let's build it and then let's make money with it. It's often in Web3, it's I'm trying to build something, people pay me up front and then I deliver, or it's another continuous funding mechanism, which isn't as clear as someone uses your tool, he subscribes, he pays 10 euros, next month he does it again. Where in Web3 does something like this happen? Tools are always free, and then there's a lot of promises on top. And always it's
there are some
monetization
monetization models.
Yeah, there are some motivational models, but they are
monetization, like Honeycomb.
monetization. Okay.
Honeycomb on Wax is like a monthly thing. You pay for your Discord server, so you can scan all of like users' wallets for Atomic Asset NFTs and grant rewards.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So there's a couple, but I think it's the exception. I think there isn't actually. You are right. In the grand scheme of things, there aren't many consistent, renewable resources of income.
But I think that's also a little bit of the outcome of the conditions we've been under, because currently if you take a fee for something, then you might just lose the audience, and the audience will go to somebody else who takes a smaller fee or nothing at all.
Yeah, that's exactly what's wrong with Web3. Everything is free.
Well, no, that's
no.
You're looking at it backward. It's more so like that's what's wrong with the audience that has been attracted, right?
Okay, yeah, okay,
right. Which it's like
don't blame the game.
yeah. Well, I mean, you shouldn't blame the user, but it is also like I think it's a fair statement to say that maybe it's just the wrong demographic, right? If your demographic is a demographic that has zero interest in paying for anything, it's like, well, of course you can't run a business. You can run a soup kitchen, right? But you can't run a business like that. It's just not possible, And I think that like it's again like you can't blame the customer, but I think I mean you got to have a demographic that's willing to pay money, right? Otherwise, it's just I don't think that's like a evil capitalist thing to say. I think it's a pretty reasonable expectation. You're delivering a product or a service, a good, deserve to be compensated for it. Otherwise, that business is going to starve. And if that's the only demographic that we've been able to wrangle here on Wax, well then,
essentially, maybe I'm wrong with that one, but everything that has a fee could be turned into something that has a monthly revenue, and it could even open a creative avenue for how the user, how features are developed and how a user perceives a platform, a marketplace, whatever it is. So instead of, for example, having a 1% trade fee on a collection, the marketplace should have a 10% flat rate, for example, for users to trade just freely. And if users don't subscribe, they pay the trade fee or whatever. And I think that could lead to you building additional products on top of that, additional revenue, and having more stability in financial planning, development planning for the next few months. People thing about subscription is also people sometimes forget about subscriptions. They just stay subscribed because they don't quit the contract or whatever. Mm-hmm. I feel like you could turn a lot of you pay fees for this and that into you have a monthly subscription, and with a huge limit, and afterwards you still pay fees or whatever it is, but people would feel more attached to using it more regularly and stuff, instead of when I use it, I need to pay for it. I don't think people like that a lot, but it wouldn't work everywhere else. Everywhere. Quite a fitting example for me is Axis and Ronin Chain and all the games they have, because you have a transaction fee, but I think people on that blockchain play a lot of games at the same time. And if you could give them Ronin Plus or whatever for 10 or 20 euros a month, and they wouldn't need to pay any transfer fees anymore, I think many people would take that deal. So that's how I envision transitioning that a little bit for the better. instead of fees.
That's one idea. I think in Web3 as a whole, you do kind of need fees somewhere at some point in time. Otherwise, it becomes exploitable. But as
Yeah,
far as
okay.
like the demographic goes, it's like the difference between like someone willing to pay 1 cent and 0 is staggering. Because on Wax, we do have like that's like what, like half a Wax for an NFT. Lots of people are not even willing to pay that, right? They're willing
that's
to pay
because
0, right?
That's because they have an idea that a wax could potentially become $1 all of a sudden. So if you're paying half a dollar for something that might suddenly not be worth half a cent, then they are a little bit like turned off by that, I guess.
I
You're
don't
right.
think so. I don't think so.
I
I don't think that's the case.
that case has lasted for a couple of years, I think, but I think it has been proven to be wrong. Exactly.
Yeah, well, why stop at $1? You know, like I don't think.
I think many blockchains and projects face exactly that. The motivation with which an asset was bought 3 or 4 years ago doesn't hold up to whatever is currently a trend or whatever the market looks like. So I think that paradigm is just over. I don't think in Web3 people will. I don't think the future funding of Web3 will look like initial funding in form of NFTs and I don't know, token sales. I think the industry is transitioning.
I think meme coins always, I don't know about token sales, but I think how meme coins kind of go in their launch, I think that will always remain. I do agree that NFTs will have to kind of reinvent themselves. I said this during one of the marketing meetings, but it's like if an industry like a niche was only ever truly successful during the period where the government was just printing money out and giving it to people, then maybe that industry was based on a bubble. Maybe like there has to be that, like, we'll never have the same situation as 21. The product's got to be way better, and even if they are way better, the odds are the reward's going to be way less.
I think now the real utility and the experience matters more than back in 2021. And that's what everyone should focus on. Bringing their product to a stage where it's really state of the art.
Yeah. But at least in Web3, I feel like once, like, if someone's willing to spend 1 cent, they're willing to spend a few dollars. They're willing to spend a few $100s. Actually, willing to spend a good bit of money. But it's far and few in between, And it seems that the vast majority of people who are willing to spend money, which is effectively people who have disposable income, they're no longer with us here on Wax. They have left the train. They've left the station quite a while ago.
Not sure. It baffles me that many in my German community are still very active on Wax. I think
people are active.
Truly, deep in the core of Wax, there's a deep cult for Wax is the best blockchain, and I feel that multiple times a week when some people around me enjoy Wax in multiple ways. Some enjoy the DeFi possibilities, even though we don't have much of a volume, we have quite nice rewards on Wax. Just on a different level or scale, if you want to call it like that. But they enjoy Wax. Look at the Neon Space NFT guys, for example, too. They still have that weekly Wax market analysis where they still trade that one DeFi portfolio that they have built from, I don't know, a starting amount of Wax and then different farm rewards and allocating their rewards into some other liquidity positions and stuff. It's growing. So There's a deep core community. And I see a lot of criticism about how other apps, how other applications on other networks work, and how slow they are, how expensive they are. I see those comments regularly. Hey, anyways, 4:30 p.m. UTC. I think one thing left to discuss is what time we will agree on for such a roundtable. How should we do it? Should we do a poll or should we just move with the time transition?
Just move it 1 hour backwards.
Keeping current time is good.
I would just keep the current time. I mean, everybody is adjusting usually to summer daylight savings times anytime soon. So
Is that then 14:30 UTC starting next week? Or is it the week after? We are then UTC +2 here, right?
yes,
Okay, so it's 14:30 UTC to keep the same time,
14:30?
isn't it?
No,
it's a
we're
full
always
hour, not a half
15.
hour.
No, yeah, 14:30.
It would
sorry.
be 14 UTC to keep the
Yeah,
same
14.
time.
Exactly. Sorry, I was distracted by my clock. It shows 30. Yeah, okay, so 14 UTC is our new time starting next week then.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
and let's go with that. Cool. Was a nice talk. Great talk today. Thanks as always. Meeting next week again.
What are we
Tuesday,
doing
right?
on Thursday?